So let's go ahead and start. This is called the 3 Killers of Nazarites. And so in the Bible, it talks about Nazarites and people that set their lives for Jesus. And as we see from the foundation of relationships, is that our whole way of living, I was talking with Bobby, he was asking me a really good question. Was Noah perfect? That's why he made it. And then I answered him and I said, the word that they used was walk with God. And so the ones that walked with God are like the ones that were living their life for God. It didn't mean they were completely perfect, like completely mature. Like Noah, you see him struggling a lot after the flood. So he was very much not perfect. But they walked with God. They love Jesus. They have faith. And they're letting him be the father of their life and the Lord of their life. And they've given themselves wholeheartedly to him. And so in the Bible, it's very interesting. There's these specific people that the kingdom of darkness kind of shows attributes of the devil that go after people that are burning for Jesus. And there's specific traits in the way that they take them down. Actually, Bobby asked another really good question. He said, if everyone died in the flood, how come if all of Cain's line is dead, how did it come back again? Then it's because it's spiritual. And then I answered him, because it's actually not linked in specifically to just Cain, but a Cain-type people that the devil keeps tempting. And then so we could always, as long as the snake comes down and tempts us, and we buy that lie, then we can go back to like the days of Cain and stuff like that. Because it's spiritual. It's the devil trying to get us to get away from God. And so the devil, so just to go after that again, these are people in the Bible, but it's more of a spiritual attribute the devil uses to attack us. And then you could see the devil's attributes in these people that agreed with that spirit. So I'm going to highlight a couple of people, and that's Elijah. He wasn't biblically like a Nazarite in a sense of the vow, but he was one that was very set apart for God. And he followed Jesus in everything that he did, or the Lord. And so that's why he's in this. Then the other one is Samson. He was a Nazarite by birth. And then John the Baptist was a Nazarite by birth. And so their counterparts, the one that tried to kill Elijah was Jezebel. The one that tried to kill Samson was Delilah. And the one that tried to kill John the Baptist was Herodias. And you want to look at in your life if the devil is trying to attack you through some of these type of relationships. Or if you've even opened yourself to allow these type of relationships to come through you. The reason why I want to go over it is because we're not in the Garden of Eden. We're thousands of years into sin. And so sometimes a stronghold can be over us as a culture or a community or a country, and we don't even know it until the word brings it to light, and then we can see it, and then God refines the fire, or he refines our heart. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to start first talking about Jezebel. So in this type of Jezebel-like relationship, it could be a male or a female. It doesn't have to be a female. But with this attribute, this type of person, they're self-worshiping. Everything is about you worship me, you worship me, you worship me. And then you do everything I do, and I will sacrifice your life so that I can become greater. There's a lot of relationships like that. There's a lot of people that make friends with people in school, like the coolest person in school or whatever. And then you see that coolest person in school, maybe in one story or another, where they keep making fun of you. They keep taking stuff away from your life. They keep bullying you. You might see that in high school a lot. Sometimes even in church, you might see that. And then it's almost like they have this Jezebel spirit where they're destroying your life so that they can actually feel better about themselves of their own world. And I'm going to break down a couple of these things a little bit more. But here's the trait of Jezebel, is that for it was Jezebel massacred the prophets of the Lord. That Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them, and 50 to a cave and fed them with bread and water. And so the first thing there is that the spirit of Jezebel is to massacre the voice of God, the character and nature of God. The way that you see this in relationships is that you might be on fire for Jesus. You're absolutely on fire for Jesus. And then you get into a relationship, and then all of a sudden, Jesus takes the second seat, the passenger seat. The voice of God gets muted and muted and muted until the only voice that matters in the relationship is the boyfriend or the girlfriend, the Jezebel or the prophet, so to say. And so you want to watch out for that in relationships. Do we have any relationships, or do we even do anything in our lives where we mute the voice of God? We silence the direction of Jesus. We silence the fear of God. And that's what Jezebel does. The prophets represented people that the Spirit of God rested on and spoke through. And so in our relationship, you might start out as a Christian on fire with the right motivations, the right heart. Just maybe you might be lacking some wisdom and counsel, and you get into a relationship with somebody where they're silencing God. The fastest way you get into those relationships is get into a relationship with someone that hates God. If someone doesn't like God, they're going to silence God in your relationship. If you get into a relationship with someone that's burning for Jesus, you'll probably both be burning for Jesus. Because the last thing you're trying to do is silence Jesus. The first thing you're trying to do is hear God. And so the counterpart of Jezebel is John, the Apostle John. So let's go ahead and read John 13:23. It says, this is when they're on the Last Supper, and I'll tell the story. Jesus is about to be crucified. Judas is about to give him away. And then Jesus starts speaking about, but there's somebody here that's going to betray me and give me the kiss of Satan. Lady Gaga made that song, actually, The Kiss of Judas. I don't know how I know that, but I found out. And then, but John is completely different. John is somebody that instead of massacring the voice of God, he leans in to Jesus' chest and wants to know what's in Jesus' heart. That the exact opposite. If you want to go in the opposite spirit of Jezebel, it's to, instead of massacre the voice of God in your relationships, is to lean into the heart of God together and ask the Lord, what is on your heart, Jesus? What is it, Father, that you want to talk to us about? What is it that you're desiring from us? How can we please you and delight you in our relationship? And that's the opposite of Jezebel, which she hates the voice of God so much, she kills and massacres hundreds and hundreds of prophets to the point where the only active one, so to say, is Elijah, even though there were 7,000 of other remnants. All right, so let's go ahead. Here are some traits of Jezebel that you want to be careful for, and they're in the Bible. All right, abortion of destiny. So what Jezebel used to do is that with Baal, she would sacrifice babies. The way that you worship Baal in some of these rituals during this time is you would take a baby and then you would throw her down the cliff, like the staircase, the temple. And then so she would tumble and her blood would flow through the temple. And you would sacrifice baby after baby after baby. And so what that represents is a new life in God, and that represents a new destiny, and that represents an abortion of that you're killing someone's destiny. Jezebel's, like the spirit of Jezebel, will destroy your destiny. It will abort your destiny. That's what this spirit does. So when you get into a relationship, one of the number one things that take out fiery Christians in the church, Even the mission movement is relationships of Jezebel, where one of the counterparts, if they're not fully wise, they'll end up destroying the destiny of somebody. By lust, right? The way that Jezebel did it was that she went to get a commitment from King Ahab. King Ahab was the king. She knew that if she had sex with Ahab, she would never leave him. And she can do all of the sinful things she wants to do in the kingdom. So when someone has a relationship with you, what they'll try and do, if there's a Jezebel spirit, is latch onto you, sleep with you, get a commitment, and destroy your destiny. I know some of you guys might have gone through that, right? I've gone through that multiple times. And for the sad part, besides me being the victim, I was also the victimizer. I was also the person that let that Jezebel spirit come into my life and destroy people's lives beforehand. And then you destroy destiny. That's one of the traits of Jezebel. Again, the opposite spirit is John, who's for the destiny of Jesus. I kind of mentioned this a little bit already. The next one is the control of the crown. So with Jezebel, you'll notice that as you read the storyline of it. I'll just tell you the stories so you can get the stories of it more. The storyline as it goes is that Ahab becomes more and more seduced by Jezebel. And then Jezebel is now telling the kingdom what they're going to be doing. And so Jezebel comes in, destroys the voice of God. She becomes the voice of God. And now she's controlling the crown over your life. And now you can't do anything unless you talk to that Jezebel. Am I going to go watch a movie? Am I going to go do this? Am I going to feel like this? You can tell you have something of a Jezebel in your relationship if you feel even insecure about your own emotions. You're like, can I even feel like this right now? Like, I'm talking from my own experience. Am I allowed to be sad if this person lets me? Am I allowed to feel anger right now? Am I allowed to feel this with you? It's a complete control of everything in your life right now. You might even feel that in your family. I don't know where all of you came from, but just to be real, not all families are completely in the likeness of God. In your own family, you might have family members that are trying to destroy your destiny. I'm going to talk on family on Friday, and I'm going to speak about Confucianism, which is ancestor worship. And that's huge in Asia. It's where you worship your ancestors, and they're the ones that control your life, not the Spirit of God. And so you might see some of this stuff, not even with a relationship of the opposite sex. You might see some of this stuff in a family. And then you have to be aware that that's not the Spirit of God on my life. That's something else that's happening there. The control of the crown. All right, the next one is, with this story, is silencing God's voice, which I kind of mentioned already. It's that in this relationship, okay, let's go pray and ask God. You might have been someone that prays every single day. You might have been someone that was convicted that when I get out of DTS or I go on outreach, I may struggle with it, but I'm going to learn how to read my Bible every day. I'm going to learn how to pray the word every day. It's like you may not do it perfectly, but it's something in your heart where you're like, I'm going to do this. And your intentions are pure, and your motivations are pure, and your heart, God loves that. And then there's someone you like, or a family member even, that doesn't follow God. And then they start coming in your life, and then you start talking about Jesus, and they start talking about something else. You got to be careful, because that might be the Jezebel spirit. If God isn't the priority of your life, if he's not the direction of your life, if he's not the center of your life, your prayer life is starting to diminish. Like, why are you praying so much? You should be studying. Or why are you praying so much? I want to be on the phone with you. Or God's always with you. We're talking right now, we're praying. But you know that's not fully, there's something wrong with that. And you got to know that, I don't care if she comes up. No one cares. So you got to know that could be the Jezebel spirit coming out of it. And so you also want to watch it with each other and your friends. and your community. If somebody really wants to be with the Lord, don't Jezebel them. You know what I mean? I think I started it out with the water so high with the harlot Babylon because I wanted us to see what this stuff looks like if you add 2,000 years to it. That's how our sin looks like when you let it progress, because that's the heart of sin.